So go ahead and weigh in on the ideas you were exploring.
Okay, so before I explore my ideas, I just want to say that I've had to write them down because Chuku's quite thorough, and it takes some thinking when I'm having a discussion with him. So my perspective is that from a Western perspective in regards to intelligence, I am considered amongst the top 10% of which comes to being an intellectual, and when it comes to intelligence. In general, you are obviously processing information in a much more profound and effective manner than I do. Therefore, Western conceptions of intelligence and the Western scale are obviously bullshit. And obviously this is a result of your nature and your martial arts conditioning within your system, and not a Western or an Asian system.
All right, so about the placebo effect, what did you want to say about that?
Yeah, so the placebo effect. So I wanted to give you an example. So the placebo effect can confound the results of a medical experiment. It is uncertain what is behind the placebo effect, but because people in medical experiments improve when taking a placebo group provides a baseline for comparing treatments. We cannot eliminate the placebo effect on a treatment group. Both the placebo group and the drug group experience the placebo effect. If a treatment process produces better results than a placebo, then we have evidence that the treatment and not the placebo effect is responsible for the improvement. So I'm comparing the placebo to treatment, and the treatment being martial arts. So I thought that was a good example.
Okay, what had just occurred to me right now is very key. Even the name placebo, place-ebo. This is the place of the ebo that they are seeking to replace. Western culture, as I was pointing out since 2009 in my Illuminati Part 1, is nothing but African culture with a white man's twist. And that includes twisting who should be in charge and why. Ebo is Obi backwards. Obi means heart, it means king, it means temple, it means hut. Okay, in terms of intelligence, the highest form of intelligence is natural intelligence. The geeks are trying to dumb people down so they can confuse them about who's more intelligent, more gifted, and more fit to lead, right? Fit, even that in that word, fit. Mind, body, and soul connection. You've seen the Harvard Medical School study, right, that I showed you, and I've shown my viewers, the one about how exercise refines thinking skills and improves thinking skills and improves memory retention. And of course, we see a lot of the descendants of the Ebos in the form of African Americans in the ghettos, given drugs that cause cognitive damage, and smoking marijuana is a key part of a lot of the groups of African Americans' culture. And that causes short-term memory loss. So the physical activity improves their memory, mind, body, and soul. But if you take on a Western culture of sports and partying, you lose the mental aspect of that. So you become a fit knucklehead and a fit person suffering cognitive impairment. Okay, so now I was having you write down some key sayings of mine. So if you want, you can read those at this point.
Yeah, sure.
But hold on a second, let me put it towards you.
Okay, so these are key points of Chuku's sayings. So, connect Buddhism to martial arts. When we look at Buddhist sayings, they tend to be short and sweet and require a lot of thinking. Why is that? Why is that people do not hold it against themselves when it comes to my very straightforward points? This is referring to Chuku, obviously. That they do not understand or follow suit. Anyone who does not concede my point and behaviour accordingly should be banned from martial art. Process information, honour, discipline and truth. Who, when, why and what. Proof on the battlefield. One cannot lie to themselves and get away with it. Insight. Life is short and martial arts is super speed chess. To remove the super speed chess component and to make it about the look of the piece, it is some less than Girl Scout bitchit. Outmaneuver.
All right, keep going.
When a martial arts keys up, iya is one of the most profound expressions of masculinity. Ask yourself, at what point does he key up? In the Sun Temple martial art, he is conveying the masculine spirit of God. In Eastern martial arts, is he conveying the energy of one's body with implications of one's genetics and martial arts ancestors? The mindset of righteous indignation from God as it comes into conflict with an opponent.
All right, do one more page.
Yeah. The opponent is not just the Sun Temple. Martial artists' enemy, but the enemy of God. Even if it strikes down the flesh, the spirit of God prevails. The point of sparring is the conveying of the spirit of God. Thus the term like contact. He who is the most in harmony and contact with God wins. Righteous indignation is the only way God's spirit expresses itself through martial arts. One form of directing righteous indignation is when an opponent in sparring is challenging your position in the divine order. And what leads one to that righteous indignation is one's sense of one's mind, body and soul and spirit, as well as sensing their opponents. Is it through the sense system that all martial arts are invalidated after God's chosen say that they are? This invalidation is permanent and the natural world order collapses.
Okay, so she said things in a way that was kind of confusing, and that's part of my point as well. Basically, one of the points there is that if we remove the super speed chess component of martial arts, which has to do with mind, body, and soul, conveying the spirit versus the Luciferian energy, and making split-second decisions, okay? It's some less than Girl Scout bitch shit. The ayah, or the keying up, ayah, is an expression of pure masculinity, okay? It is only to be truly expressed in a man. When a woman does it, she is trying her best in desperation to defend herself from a rapist or some kind of surprise attack. Okay, this is not meant for women. This is a masculine system, and very rarely do we see women being incorporated. And even when the Igbos took the gender-neutral Chinike kind of Neri stance, there was very few women in the martial arts societies. So even when they sought to democratize the pharaoh's power, and they went as far as to make the argument that the god is gender neutral, they didn't truly incorporate. Their martial arts societies weren't 50% women. Okay, so when we think about the keying up versus the passive kind of Hades-friendly, Hades is said to be passive, Buddhist philosophy, gender-neutral philosophy, yin-yang philosophy. Okay, it is pure masculinity, and it is expressed best by people who cultivate that spirit, not people with a low blood pressure in kind of a neutral and meditative sort of state of mind. Okay, so when somebody makes you their opponent, they're not just the opponent of the Sun Temple, but the opponent of God. It is through the sensing of mind, body, and soul and spirit in oneself, and sensing it in the opponent, that one comes into the state of mind of righteous indignation. If we're competing over who's going to be the top martial artist, and I sense in your mind, body, soul, and spirit that you're not worthy, and I sense in mind that I am, I come more into the spirit of righteous indignation when you, at least, if for nothing else, when you consider what is at stake. What is at stake is doing God's work, and the person who is most fit to do God's work should be in charge. If I sense that you are better than I am, then I truly cannot come into the spirit of righteous indignation, because I know that that is not my place, that is yours. It is through this systematic sensing, through that sense and systematic sensing, and through that system of divine sense, mind, body, soul, and spirit, that inferior martial artists are put in their place naturally and supernaturally, mentally and physically, certainly spiritually. Okay, so now when we consider all this,
can I say something?
Right, go ahead.
Go ahead. You mentioned that females wouldn't be able to display the same kind of passion, like aggression, like when they say "ayah." But most of these kinds of the Western tradition is trying to adapt females to adapt these masculine qualities by using martial arts. And so if you ask any female who participates in martial arts, she would disagree with you, and she'd say, no, I do possess these traits. I can perform the same way as you do. So that, you know, they'll obviously challenge you in that respect.
Okay. Also, I want to go through when I said that nobody, when we look at Buddhist sayings, they're deep sayings, and you're meant to look into it for the deeper meaning. If you have trouble understanding what someone like me is saying when they are speaking plain English and other people can understand, you must look inside yourself and say, I am the problem, not him. When Buddha gives a saying to a bunch of people, and half of them get it, half of them don't. The half that do not must concede that they are less perceptive if that keeps on occurring regularly than the half that do. That is lost in our culture. We went from a culture of contemplating the meanings of things and accurately communicating them back to a bunch of bitches playing stupid because they have no depth. They're cowards. The heart is the seat of intelligence. Wait. So when I say those who, you know, because I've proven myself to be the top martial arts, $4,000 top martial arts challenge, and all the other ways I've proven it, I painstakingly put into perspective my other videos. If you really need a more in-depth proof, leave a comment, and I'll try to, you know, link you to the video where there's a more in-depth proof. Okay, so therefore, I am the top martial artist, and I'm not a Buddhist. Okay, my whole point is martial arts as the order, not Buddhism with a martial arts component, with a martial arts branch, you know, but the core of religion being the martial arts order. Okay, so if one then says, then doesn't concede and follow suit, they are not a martial artist, get out of here. I don't care what martial arts you do. They're all come from the foundation of Africa. Obi means king. The sandal bearer is your family, is your teacher. I am the descendant of Narmer. I am the descendant of the true order, regardless of what a bunch of fabricating the evidence, corporate shill scientists have to say. These same scientists have been trying to prove the white supremacy for how long? Who gives a shit what they have to say? They have utterly discredited themselves. And to blindly follow them because a bunch of other racist scientists agree with them is nonsense. Get them out of here. Get them the fuck out of here. Okay, so no woman should have the right or ability to reject Pharaoh as a wife. When we consider all these things, he's the top martial artist order. His judgment allowed him to rise to the top. Her judgment is inferior, like I went over in part 1. Okay, she has, you know, women pretty much should be silent and submissive. And when you consider how much harm and cowardice, you know, how much harm they've done, how much cowardice they've shown. So should a woman have the right or ability to reject Pharaoh as a wife? As his wife, to reject him and refuse to be his wife?
No. Given the proof, I wouldn't say so. I agree with you. But it's just that it's very difficult that you're going to find people who are spiritually in one with you, particularly women, and that's, I mean, there's too much of a Luciferian culture for people to take a pharaoh seriously.
All right, so their judgment has been a determinant in bringing the types of scum we have into this world. And on top of that, when we look at it, how do we prove a system works in our society? It goes back to the placebo effect. Other martial arts systems have a placebo effect. Other systems of developing a lifestyle. Martial arts is a way of life. It's not just how to fight. To say, oh, who can fight the best? Shut the fuck up. It is a way of life, and it is expressed through sparring who has the superior application of that way of life and who should be in charge. Who has mastered that way of life is only expressed through sparring. I reject any other idea. It is tantamount to saying a bunch of shallow-ass bitches saying, that felt amazing, should vote on who's the top martial artist versus the guy who actually has proven it through sparring, through the cultivation of righteous indignation and light contact, contacting God, the source of light. It is insane to see it any other way.